The idea that immigrants come over here and they don't know anything and they're dragging us down, because we all come from immigrants, including you, Tomi Lahren.
She talks about low skills. What exactly are her skills?
Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh, my gosh. 1930 census says Tommy's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. She doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history.
Sunny Hostin just face-planted off her moral high horse, and Tomi Lahren arrived armed with receipts, popcorn, and a flamethrower. Imagine mocking someone's ancestry while posing as a woke icon. Sunny, girl, pick a struggle. In this episode of Who Wants to Be a Hypocrite, Tomi didn't just clap back. She hosted a masterclass in public takedowns. Buckle up. This drama's juicier than a Real Housewives reunion, and twice as petty. And trust us, you won't believe what Sunny said next.
Tomi, what led to that bashing on The View?
Well, there is a woman over the weekend who took it upon herself to research my family history in hopes of digging up some kind of a gotcha moment, a gotcha angle to validate illegal immigration and open borders. And what she found was really shocking, guys. She found that my family who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German.
Okay.
And really what she did is prove that my family came here legally, but what she was hoping to do was try to call me a hypocrite for believing in merit-based immigration.
It must be exhausting being Sunny Hostin, full-time moral arbiter, part-time talk show host, and Olympic-level mental gymnast. The walking encyclopedia of who to cancel next somehow slipped on her own halo, and of course Tomi Lahren was there to witness the crash. A woman whose political commentary cuts sharper than Sunny's wardrobe critiques. Tomi's tolerance for hypocrisy? 0.
Again, she failed miserably, but this really isn't what she calls resistance genealogy. It's just another indication of Trump derangement syndrome.
But
I really am happy, though, that she has such a fascination with my family history, and I'm hoping that she will take on Elizabeth Warren's next. Well, it's not just me. It's anybody who advocates for merit-based immigration or has an issue with open borders. And again, just like you said, they don't seem to understand that we on the right believe in immigration. We understand that we are a nation of immigrants, and I am proud of my heritage.
When Sunny swung at Tomi's ancestry like it was a brunch party piñata, Tomi didn't just clap back. She retaliated with elegantly petty precision. The blow was so devastating, Sunny's latte probably flew off her glass table. But this wasn't some trashy Twitter feud or a lazy daytime TV jab. No, this was a spotlight, exposing the soft underbelly of performative wokeness, where heritage only matters when it fits the narrative. And inclusivity comes with a politically correct asterisk.
Tomi, don't you believe in love?
Of course I do, but I want to get to your question, because this whole Trump is anti-woman thing, I just don't buy it, because if he was so anti-woman, why did he select a female to run his campaign? If Kellyanne Conway had been a Democrat, you all at this table would have been applauding her, singing her praises. So if he doesn't like women, he's anti-woman. I don't think he would have selected a woman to
That's like
run
saying
his
all
campaign.
Jewish and being an anti-Semite. It has nothing to do with
I
one
trust
kind of
women.
thing.
No,
I think there's something to say. You're putting your money where your mouth is. You're putting your money where your mouth is.
Tomi didn't need volume. She needed scalpel-level precision. While Sunny basked in applause for her virtue-signaling one-liners, Tomi rolled up with a fact-checking flamethrower and torched the script. In a world where outrage is currency and victimhood pads resumes, Tomi dared to say, "Actually, no. You don't get to mock someone's background just because you're wearing a progressive name tag."
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Let's not call this a feud. That would imply two equals trading blows. This was a surgical dissection, a masterclass in humiliation without raising a voice. Sunny didn't challenge Tomi. She dismissed her with a wrist flick and an eye roll so smug it nearly cracked her own moral pedestal. Her target, not Tomi's politics, not her policies, her ancestry. Now, pause. Imagine if those same comments were aimed at someone higher on the media's diversity scorecard. CNN would hold emergency panels. The View would launch a tearful apology tour, complete with HR-mandated workshops and a trauma memoir book deal. But since Tomi's heritage lacks the approved identity stamp, open season, and oh how the self-righteous love hunting when they assume the prey can't fight back. Their weapon of choice? Condescension disguised as commentary, because nothing fuels their smugness like mistaking prejudice for activism.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune.
Tomi didn't play dead. She just sharpened her facts, tilted the mirror, and let Sunny faceplant into her own reflection. Because the most devastating clapback isn't a scream, it's silence with receipts. And oh, did Tomi come locked and loaded. What Twitter calls receipts, sane people call common sense. No shouting, no table flipping, no performative boycotts. Just Tomi dragging Sunny across the marble floors of her own contradictions. Funny thing about spending your career preaching cultural respect. You might want to avoid mocking someone's ancestry just because they vote red. But Sunny couldn't resist. Maybe the moral superiority factory had a gas leak. She weaponized identity politics with the grace of a chainsaw, attacking Tomi's heritage like it was fair game. And here's the irony. Slow roasting to perfection. Tomi's roots, middle class, working family. Immigrant hustle aren't exactly the stuff of coastal elite lore. No trust funds, no legacy think tank gigs. Just generations of American grit built paycheck to paycheck with a side of Midwestern frostbite.
Did you provide them with DNA, 23andMe? Because I cannot believe the detail on your background that they were able to get.
Well, I don't have to. She did all the research for me, so I'm sure my family is very appreciative.
What about Joy saying, though, what are your skills? It's beyond research. It is personal. It is mean.
Well, of course, this is classical Joy Behar, but I would like to ask Joy Behar what her skills are, because perhaps we could swap stories. I know I watch Joy, and she seems like a highly skilled lady, but for her to attack me, that's really interesting. Those in glass houses should not throw stones.
But apparently, that kind of heritage only earns respect if you vote correctly. So Tomi did the unthinkable. She exposed the hypocrisy calmly. No screeching. No demands for an apology. Just a guided tour through Sunny's greatest hits of contradiction. And damn, was it a platinum record. Remember Sunny, self-appointed patron saint of cultural sensitivity? Turns out the fine print reads, offer void if subject is blonde, conservative, or capable of forming sentences without a teleprompter. That's what made Tomi's takedown art. No fireworks, just a mirror. A crystal clear one, angled right at Sunny. Because when you're the Grand Marshal of the Inclusivity Parade, you'd better not trip over your own float. Yet there Sunny went, face down on the pavement of her own logic, blaming the ground for her stumble. And Tomi? She just reminded the world, respect isn't a partisan coupon. You don't get to demand empathy for approved groups while mocking the wrong kind of ancestry. Otherwise, your whole brand is just seasonal activism. as meaningful as unplugging grandma's Wi-Fi and calling it social justice.
We keep on talking about criminals and immigrants being criminals. And I just want people to understand what the facts are and the stats are, is that undocumented immigrants are much less likely to have committed crimes than American citizens. American citizens commit more crimes than anyone who is undocumented. I also want to make the point that an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegals is, in and of itself, I think, xenophobic and racist. I do.
What Tomi exposed wasn't just a petty jab, it was the blueprint of a much bigger scam. The selective outrage economy, where empathy is only valid at certain ideological stores. Walk in wearing the wrong jersey? Sorry, your humanity isn't recognized here. Let's call it buffet-style wokeness. Sunny loads her plate with the social justice dishes that look good on camera, but ignores anything that doesn't match her aesthetic. Pro-immigrant, unless they're conservative. Pro-woman, unless she disagrees with you. Pro-diversity, unless it's rural, working class, or dares to question tax hikes. It's a game Sunny's played so long, she forgot the cameras were rolling. Enter Tomi, pulling the security footage. Her response wasn't rage, it was forensic. If your values crumble the second someone with different opinions walks in, they were never values, just slogans with Instagram filters. And the public, they watched with popcorn, not because they all agree with Tomi, far from it, but because hypocrisy is the universal cringe. And watching someone get caught in their own trap, that's one of the last bipartisan pleasures left in America.
And if Democrats really want to die on the hill of bringing back plane loads of criminal, illegal alien gang members...
But you haven't proven that they're criminals.
Please,
that's the problem.
Be my guest.
Honestly, look, I will be the first one to say, if there is a criminal, if there's a gang member in this country, someone who has committed any crime, big or small, get him out, sure. I'll absolutely concede that. We don't need criminals in this country. But if you're talking about somebody who you don't know because you haven't afforded them due process, then you can't just make that claim.
But the fact remains, President Trump is not only securing our border, but he is deporting criminal, illegal aliens. And if Democrats want to stand in the way of that, and they want to tell their constituents, hey, vote for us in the midterms, vote for us in 2028, we'll make sure that the criminal aliens come back. Far be it for me to stand in your way.
The best part? Sunny couldn't even play victim. She built this disaster with her own two hands, crafting the perfect litmus test for acceptable identity, then failing it spectacularly in real time. The internet didn't need to spin the story. The facts were damning enough. And that, folks, is karma at its most poetic. Of course, the usual defenders came sprinting. Twitter academics and Instagram activists, suddenly fluent in nuance and context. Funny how these same voices were deafeningly silent, or worse, brandishing pitchforks when the target was a conservative. But when their queen of daytime TV got caught tossing unseasoned shade about someone's heritage, suddenly, let's focus on the bigger picture and let's pause to savor Tomi's masterstroke of revenge. No screaming, no tears, no performative support groups, just a leisurely walk through Sunny's garden of hypocrisy, plucking the juiciest contradictions and holding them up to the light. Her weapon? Facts. And those hit harder than any trending hashtag. This wasn't just about a petty insult. It was about torching the elitism behind curated wokeness.
And I would just like to state, I don't know if they understand this or not, but if you don't want your family to be broken up when you cross the border illegally, here's an idea. Don't cross the border illegally. Then your family will surely stay together. I don't know why the left can't think of this, but they would rather try to tell us that we hate families, we want to break up families, we're horrible, we're despicable. No, we want to enforce federal immigration law, which is why it exists in the first place. But again, the left cannot seem to understand this concept.
Because when Sunny mocked Tomi's ancestry, what she really meant was, people like you don't get to take pride unless we approve it. But Tomi, she never asked for permission. She took her identity, steeled in grit and hard work, and wore it like armor. The irony? Tomi's background, the very thing Sunny ridiculed, is the kind of story the liberal media claims to adore. Humble beginnings, immigrant hustle, American resilience. Until the story ends with a Second Amendment bumper sticker. Then suddenly, that narrative isn't inspirational, it's a punchline. And that's the conversation no one wants to have, because it forces a reckoning. Their activism might just be theater. They don't actually care about your journey unless your destination is their political echo chamber. Their compassion? A VIP lounge, guest list strictly enforced. Enter Tomi Lahren, flamethrower in hand, burning down the velvet rope. She held Sunny to her own standards, the ones she screams about loudest. And watching Sunny squirm, without Tomi even raising her voice, that wasn't just justice, it was art.
Well, as we've seen, Israel clearly doesn't play around, but every nation has the right to enforce their border. Every nation has a right to protect its citizens. I've said it before. You don't lock your door because you hate the people outside. You lock it because you believe in protecting the people inside. That is why we have a border. But the left would rather us have open borders. Again, that's a threat to our safety and security.
A PSA for the performatively woke. If your moral compass only works when your friends are watching, you're not navigating. You're spinning in circles with a GPS set to hypocrisy. This whole mess exposes the grand delusion of modern cultural respect. You can't preach diversity while sneering at anyone whose heritage isn't pre-approved by coastal elites. You can't claim to love all cultures while treating rural, conservative roots like a discount bin identity. Real inclusivity? It means swallowing your pride long enough to admit people who disagree with you still have stories worth honoring. Even if their Christmas tree is real, their truck has a gun rack, and their ballot is red. Tomi's takedown wasn't just entertaining, it was necessary. It ripped the mask off fake progressivism, the kind that uses identity as a prop, but only if it toes the line. Beneath all the empowerment hashtags and diversity brochures, a rigid rulebook. Agree with us, or you don't count. And guess what? People are done. Done being told their history only matters if it comes with trauma and a Democratic voter ID. Done seeing identity reduced to a marketing campaign. Done sitting quietly while some talk show host mocks their parents, their accent, their hometown, then calls herself a champion of the people. Tomi didn't just clap back. She turned on the lights, exposed the smug elitism driving this circus, proved it was never about compassion, just control. Control over who matters, over whose stories get told, over who's allowed to take pride in their roots. So if Sunny really wanted to be the voice of the people, maybe she should have noticed the people aren't just blue-check Twitter bios. They're in farms, suburbs, diners, trailers, even Fox News green rooms. Tomi didn't need volume. She didn't need rage, just precision. Her message was simple. If you claim to respect ancestry, respect it. If you preach tolerance, practice it. If you promote diversity, or admit you're just selling bumper stickers, not beliefs, and while Sunny sips her latte pretending nothing happened, we all saw it. The hypocrisy, the double standard, the makeup off, lights on reality of performative wokeness. Turns out, the best way to kill a double standard isn't with fury. It's with a mirror and a smirk.